We glow like Chernobyl with George Bamford, we launch 3 new watches with Rotary, plus we catch up in real life with Studio Underdog and their new pizza perfections. All this and more on today's show. Welcome to the Scottish Watches podcast. We're back in the groove. This is the second recording me and Dave have done in less than a week. We caught up at the weekend, we saw Rich at Studio Underdog in Glasgow for one day, which turned out to be 2 days only, at James Port & Son in Argyll Arcade. We got to experience the new watches in real life, and we spotted things we didn't even notice in the pictures and in the renders. So more on that later on, but it's time to go across to Dave and find out who he's getting on, because he's still in Scotland. He's not in Switzerland, he's not back at Arage HQ, he's not wandering around Omega taking photos of new Apollo 8s that some people think are expensive. How is Dave?
Dave is fine. Indeed, Dave is still in his home studio, which looks semi-professional as opposed to the cell that is Biel in Switzerland.
The terrorist cell.
What's next, Ricky? Should we get on with the first watch?
No, we shouldn't. We should tell people to check the show notes. That's the bit you forgot there. Go to your podcast player, click the link, and you'll be able to see all the information, all the pictures, tech spec, and links that will take you across to our website, to a specific page for this episode and this episode alone. If you're watching us on YouTube, that link will be in the description, and you're only getting half the information if you don't play along at home. Apart from that, if you're watching us on YouTube, we'd appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, you clicked the like button, and afterwards you wrote a comment. Let us know what you think. If there's things you liked, disliked, things we missed out, things you want to hear more of, or things you want to see less of, like Dave. But we should probably get on and talk about a watch that is absolutely glowing. Now, we talked in the last episode about a visit to Laser Quest, which is laser tag here in the UK. We wore the worn and wound watches, the ones that came out with Zodiac only 6 months ago. I absolutely love that watch. Didn't love the squeakiness factor on the strap, but we didn't actually hear that when we were running around panting, trying to catch our breath, totally unfit. Fantastic watches, loved them, loved the fact that the case material had lume injected into the side, so you had this flank, very Tron-esque. Actually, Tron 3 is currently in development. Don't know much about it, but we will talk about that in the future because that's one of my favourite films. Now, this watch from Bamford is similar, but different, obviously. He has not nicked any ideas, but I really like the look of these. Dave probably really likes the look of these, and when I mentioned Chernobyl at the start of the show, I wasn't kidding on.
No, you were not. This is another release from George Bamford, and it's from Bamford London's collection, and this is the B347 range, which is his range of mono-pusher chronographs, utilising a Solita movement in there, so it will keep the price within reality, utilising a carbon fibre case. But for this model, he has rolled or marbled in a green lume, which is really effective. Now, we've seen this with a few brands before. I think Zenith maybe have done something similar. Hublot have definitely done something of this ilk, but maybe not at this price point.
Sophie Rindler at Talker as well.
Sophie has at Talker watches. So yeah, a few people have done it. This price point, 2,500 of your British pounds, so therefore a fairly accessible price point considering you've got a monopusher chronograph and a carbon fibre case. You then have a green lume kind of ring around the rehot ring. You've also got the bright white lume on the appliques and the hands on this watch. So if you like lumed watches and you like bright punchy colours, this definitely could be the one for you. I quite like it. Definitely wouldn't be an only watch.
Dave, you can't say only watch.
There would be some research and development into that phrase. Anyway, moving along. If it was your only watch, you probably wouldn't just want to have this, as it's a little garish, shall we say. But if you are, like us, in that deep rabbit hole of many, many watches, then this could be a nice little addition to the range.
I'm liking this year already. We've had so many little fun, colourful, playful releases in the last few weeks that it's looking to shape up to be an excellent year for fun on the wrist. And this is something that George really hasn't done that I can remember. He uses lots of materials. He's used tobacco leaves. He's done superconductors in association with James Thomson, Black Badger. If there's a crazy idea, it'll be sucked out the atmosphere, taken out of the ether, and George will put it in a dial somewhere or in a watch case. And this is the first time I think he's done this, although he does so many. I don't know. I could be wrong. Could be wrong for the first time ever, Dave. But I really do like this one. Would I buy it? If I didn't have the worn and wound edition, perhaps yes. But the worn and wound one, it got there first. And obviously we've had a lot of fun with that at Laser Quest. So it's a no for me only because I already have one. But I believe the worn and wounds are probably all gone. It was a limited edition release. This one, it's still available because obviously we're just talking about it brand new as it comes out this week. So if you like the look of it, jump on the show notes, click the link, go across there and have a look.
I can only agree on that. If I didn't already have a mono pusher, from George with the carbon case, that being the Red Bar edition, and I didn't already have some garishly loomed watches as well, then this very much could be on my purchasing horizon, but one can only have so many of those types of toys in the collection, and unfortunately it's come fractionally too late for me, but I'm sure many of you out there will like the look of this.
Well, here's the spec, because Dave forgot. First time ever. Yeah, Dave forgot the spec. It's running with a Salita caliber inside. I believe it's SW510. That gives you around about 62 hours of power reserve. It's obviously a mono pusher chronograph. £2,500. Does that sound about right?
As I mentioned earlier, indeed £2,500. Case size coming in at 41.5 centimetres.
Centimetres, yeah. That's a big watch, Dave.
That's a big watch.
That's a big watch. Wow. Maybe I will buy that and hang it on the wall.
We need to get it in Imperial though, so we don't confuse our American listeners.
17.3 Buffalo.
They haven't quite adapted to the metric system yet.
Americans will do anything to avoid the metric system.
Except NASA.
Need another 7 astronauts. Too soon? Never mind. Right, moving on. Dave mentioned at the start of the show, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're kind of missing half the story. We have got Gav working feverishly behind the scenes to try and edit everything up, but it takes a long time to get videos done. So, if we do an interview with a brand, with a creator, a watchmaker, somebody at all, you'll find that first on Spotify. A great example would be the episode we put out last week with Roger Smith, OBE, or should that be Roger W. Smith, OBE? The famed watchmaker, best living watchmaker on the planet, in my humble opinion, and he was on talking about being able to get a hold of a special edition Series 1, talking about the Alliance, talking about British Watchmakers Day, and loads of other cool stuff, including the second iteration of The Watchmaker's Apprentice. It's currently being filmed just now, but because that isn't on YouTube yet, if you wanted to hear that, if you're in the car, you're going to the gym, you're walking the dog, or you're doing your household chores, that can be something that can be coming in your ears. And we did say this in the last episode, and a few people messaged on YouTube to say, oh, once a week's enough for us. Well, you know, if you can handle us twice a week, we are there. And a few other people said, why are you sticking to this audio thing? I mean, isn't that old hat? Well, radio still exists. Rogan still exists. And that is where we kind of, I don't know, we kind of got our start in the industry, I suppose, and that's where we're most successful. We have got the biggest catalogue online, over 530 episodes. We've got the biggest listenership and downloads due to all that, so we're not going to cancel the audio just because the YouTube's kicking along. And the figures at the moment do not compare. We should probably move on to the next thing on the list, and this is from a brand that Dave once again owns one of. I believe once again they've done a collaboration in the past with Red Bar, and this is Frederic Constant, and they've got something a little bit different.
I actually have a couple of Frederic Constants, a brand that I really enjoy. If you like premium watchmaking at a very attainable cost, and a brand who also do much in the way of doing their own manufacture movements as well.
Should we name our next limited edition watch the Aswell?
I mean...
Not the Roswell, the Aswell.
Did I say Aswell a lot? Apparently do. Anyway, this is a skeletonized perpetual calendar. Now, the perpetual calendar has been within their range for a few years now, and in fact, as Ricky mentioned, Red Bar did do a collaboration with the High Life, both the perpetual calendar version and the regular time date version as well. So a well-respected movement and a well-respected watch at a very affordable price point, certainly compared to many of the other in-house calibers with regards to perpetual calendars that are out there. I believe in the UK, in and around the £10,000 mark. So a lot of money nonetheless, but compared to what you'll be paying for many perpetual calendars, very, very attractively priced. So what have they done? They have collaborated with Peter Speak, a famous watchmaker. He even had a brand back in the day. More recently has been doing kind of media content where he takes watches and he breaks them down to their constituent parts and shows the world at large how they're actually put together, how they're made, and all of the finishing in terms of the component levels. So quite an interesting guy, definitely knows what he's talking about, and he's collaborated with them to produce this special edition. There's actually going to be two versions. You can have it in a stainless steel case or a blackened DLC treated stainless steel case. Only 135 of the steel case and 35 of the DLC case version. I love this watch. Just starting right there. I'm not a big fan generally of skeletonized watches, but this looks absolutely exceptional. Many kind of monotone colours. You've got greys, anthracites, you've got some silvers, no punchy bright colours. There's a tiny little use of red where it's appropriate for things like leap year indicators, etc. But otherwise a super kind of low-key, great, classy looking watch in my opinion. The black case absolutely makes it, but sadly that's the one where there's only 35 of them, so I would believe that one will be hard to come by. What have you got going on here? Well, effectively they've skeletonized everything. One part of it does make me scratch my head a little bit when you skeletonize the moon phase, so that you actually see the whole of the moon phase kind of mechanical parts work, which also then means that the other bit of the moon you're not meant to see is also exposed. So it does make it a little confusing, it has to be said. And the way they've integrated the leap year indicator into the month calendar is really clever as well. This looks infinitely more expensive than the price tag it has, which is just shy of €12,000 for the silver stainless steel cased version. We actually don't have a price quite yet for the DLC coated, but my guess would be it will not be much more. It's not changing material, it's only having a little bit of extra case treatment put on there as well, just to kind of, in my opinion, finish the package off. So yeah, I really like this. Ricky, give me your opinion.
I do like it when you have no clue what I'm thinking, which is most of the time. Most of the time I'm not thinking at all. I'm thinking something else completely. I like these. I like Frederic Constant. Met them a couple of times. We had a quick interview, and I mean a ridiculously fast interview with their CEO when we were at Dubai Watch Week. And that reminds me, we have got a ton of recordings, miniature ones, mind you, that still need to go in the show. And because it is a little bit of a slow news month, I think next week we'll come on, we'll quickly blast through the news, and then what we'll do is we'll drip feed in all the little recordings. Otherwise, they're just going to waste. And there's a lot of cool information in there. We've got lots of people. We've got AP, we have got Trilobe, we've got ID Genève, tons of cool guys, cool stories, and there's one or two in there that you will absolutely love. So it's a real shame that they have been sitting on the hard drive, the cutting room floor almost. With this watch, or these watches, I like them. I do like them. And Peter Speak, he has been doing loads of cool content, as Dave rightly mentioned. I believe, looking through my misty COVID memory, he collaborated with the guys at Watchfinder to do a deconstruction of a number of watches. And I think my favourite was the Rolex Sub. And he took this thing apart on a table, explained the process, and it gave me and loads of other people a great understanding of exactly what goes into movement technology. Not a Sellita, not an ETA, but a Rolex, which, if you listen to Roger's episode, he rates highly, because they are stalwarts for many good reasons. So he does great stuff. He's been on many different things in the past. He's written blogs, he's got the Naked Watchmaker website. So great collaboration, great brand, and yeah, listen out for some words from the CEO. And here's something else to talk about. We recently put a video on our Instagram as a reel, and this was recorded by Barbara Palumbo, who was over in Italy at Vicenza Oro. I had too much on my plate this time around to bother going across there, although I was a year ago, and she will be on to talk more about that show, what she saw, what she found, and what's going on at the moment at LVMH Week. But she sent some videos across to the young Ms, and the Miz decided to upload one or two of them. And there was a video that went online, and let me just run some figures for you, because figures have been quite important in the last week. We hit and surpassed 16,000 followers on YouTube, which is great, because we only really launched the channel last year, having it lay dormant for a number of years with like 20 videos in the past 5. So that was 16,000 on YouTube subscribers. Then we have got 60,000 organic followers on Instagram. We cracked the big 60K without spending a penny. There are some people out there that spend a lot of money to buy followers. We know who you are. And then there was this post, this reel that we're talking about, and let me run some figures past you. 4,000 plus comments, 200,000 plus likes, and over 13 million, not 1 million, 13 million plus views on this video. And Dave, what was this video all about?
This is a watch from outer space. An asteroid from outer space.
Better than a hemorrhoid from outer space.
I mean, yeah, better than many things from outer space. That's, of course, if we've ever actually been to outer space. But anyway, this is a lump of asteroid that, when I first saw it, I thought to myself, that looks like a little desk clock or a little carriage clock. But no, it kind of comes off its little holder, which is also a piece of asteroid, and then mounts on your wrist as a wristwatch. You're either going to love or hate it, but what you cannot deny is it's really cool, it's innovative, it's different, and something has been done here that I don't think I've ever seen before, certainly not in the form that they've done it. Is it practical? No. Is it a daily wearer? Absolutely not. Is it a conversation starter? For sure. And Barbara got to see this in real life, which is I'm a wee bit jealous because it would be pretty cool to see this in real life just for the sake of saying you've seen it. So, yes, very cool. And it got some great traction on Instagram with people looking at it and commenting.
And it turns out that the video was so popular that a lot of people shared it, which is brilliant. Resharing it, put it in stories is great. We had a couple of people email in to say, can we put it in our Instagram? Can we put it in our YouTube? And we'll credit you. Absolutely amazing. We're not taking any credit from it. It was Barbara that spotted it, recorded it, asked the guy to actually do it twice because he's Italian. English is not his first language. Great stuff. And it reminds me of the video we did a year ago when I was there and I filmed a radioactive Rolex and a person had a Geiger counter. And we did a similar thing to get great traction, but nowhere near this. But for all the people that said, can we? And we said yes. And all the people that shared were obviously, let's say, Scottish watches and what's on our wrist. There was a couple of people that didn't, including IFL. I fucking love watches. They just stole it and then uploaded it. I didn't credit anybody. And then sat there sucking up all the monies because you can actually monetize reels if you've got lots of followers on Instagram. We don't do that. We don't monetize Instagram. We don't monetize YouTube. So if you're watching us for 45 minutes to an hour on YouTube, there's no advert breaks. We turned that off because that's going to annoy people. But yeah, they stole it. And then Barbara reached out to say, hey guys, can you credit me please? And they ignored her. So f you guys. And I know they actually pissed off a lot of people. They pissed off somebody who we won't mention, but you'll notice is not doing collaborative watches with them anymore. Guy from Scotland, funnily enough. But there we go. Anyway, should probably move on to what has been happening in the life of me and Dave. And the first thing that's happening is we went to Porter's. We didn't see Simon. We didn't see most of the staff. There was only a couple of people kicking around, but we did get to meet some firm favourites, some friends, some people in the industry that we know. Mr. Underdog, he was along there, First Name Studio. He was showcasing the pizza watches, and Jonathan from Edinburgh Watch, he came along as well to buy not just one watch, I believe it was two. He put his name down for the pizza watch, and he picked up one of the originals, one of the 01 series. And the reason that Rich was there was not really to promote the new watches that you can't buy just yet, although he did have little business cards with QR codes on them, and I got one, and no one is getting a copy of that. He was here to promote the 02 series, which I believe Porters are the only establishment where people can walk in, purchase, or place an order.
I remember back in the day speaking with Richard about the kind of general concept of having some watches in a retail space, because as many people will know, Richard's model is primarily built around a direct-to-consumer, so it's all via his website.
We should probably explain that's the reason his watches are so colourful, unique, well constructed, put together, guaranteed, and built in the UK from parts at a very low cost, because he does not have that extra margin that a retail establishment would need, because they've got rent, rates, staff, marketing, yada yada. So Rich is doing it really good, and the fact that he is collaborating with the guys at Porter's is brilliant.
He came to the realisation that, some people do in fact want to get their hands on and have a look at watches, which is the one big downside of being online only. And with Porter's having such a great community built around their store, their website and everything else, and lots of people do, as we know, travel to Glasgow specifically to go and have a look in Porter's and see all the different brands and watches that they have. So Rich felt it was a really good fit for him. In fact, so much so that he now also has Time and Tide, their new store out in Australia, doing the same thing. So there are definitely a couple of places now in the world where you can get a hands-on with the watches. He went up really because they got their first batch of Series 2 watches, which were only launched at the back end of 2023, and he had customers coming in store to pick up their Series 2, meet Richard, have a chat, and whilst he wasn't shouting about these pizza watches, if someone maybe follows him and maybe knew about them and maybe was to say to Richard, so how is it I go about getting one of these pizza watches? Then that kind of opened the door for him. He wasn't proactively pushing them, and we were there for a good couple of hours, and I think it's fair, he wasn't doing the mercenary thing of jumping on everyone saying, would you like a pizza watch? If someone mentioned it to him, he was willing to have a quiet conversation, otherwise it never existed. But we did get to see them in the hand, and I have to say, the pictures are great. But like always, pictures do not usually do the real world watch any justice, and all the little details that really don't pop out so much in the pictures when you play with the dial and you see the segments like the slices of the pizza, when you see that the little pieces of pineapple and ham, in the case of the one I was looking at, are just slightly debossed and have that little lift to them as well. It's a super cool looking, ridiculous watch. Who would have ever have thought a dial in a watch that resembles a pizza would be something? But it is, and probably Rich is about the only person and only brand that could actually get away with that, balancing that, semi-serious nature of a mechanical watch with the utter ludicrous nature of having a pizza on a dial. But if you happen to bump into Richard and or Andrew, as he's the only other one that it's been done in collaboration with, if you pop into Andrew or Rich in person and ask politely, you might also get one of those little cards that Ricky has, and I have as well, which may allow us to have some pizza on our wrist.
Now, other things we've been up to, I've been on YouTube, because that's kind of what I do, and I spotted a video. It was an advert, looks like it was made in America for the American market, and it was to advertise Porsche. And this starts off in a school classroom, and there's a kid, and he sees a guy driving a Porsche down the road, and he's kind of looking at it and thinking about it. He jumps on his bike, and as he goes past the dealership, he pops in to have a look at the car, and he's treated nicer than most people are treated at dealerships these days, I can tell you. But I'm not going to ruin the advert, because it is brilliant. It's from a bygone era. I think it's about 17 or 18 years old, and there's a point in it where the kid turns around to the salesman and says, "Okay, can I have your business card?" And then says, "I'll see you in about 20 years' time." Well, it's coming up for nearly 20 years since that advert was made, and I got a real good, warm, fuzzy feeling from it, because adverts these days are nothing like that. There was a genuine story. The comments for this video, and we'll link it in the show notes, so go and have a look at it on YouTube. The comments said some people had watched it, and it actually brought them to tears because of the storytelling in this bloody advert. So it took me back to like 20 odd years ago, where adverts were really good. There were small stories encapsulated in 30 seconds, 1 minute or 3 minutes.
The only thing nowadays that it gave me even the slightest kind of relationship to was at Christmas in the UK, some of the bigger stores, John Lewis, Marks and Spencer, some of the supermarkets tend to do these little story narrative, heartwarming, good feeling type adverts, but they're definitely very seasonal. This one had that same feel to it. And yeah, it was just really well done, really simply done, and it was definitely playing to the heartstrings, shall we say. But yeah, very well done. And it did remind me, that was one of the best looking Porsches they've done in an awful long time.
What do you mean? They all look the same anyway, since the Beetle? Anyway, we shouldn't say that. We shouldn't say that at all. Although I did send Dave a cool picture of my car next to a Beetle a couple of weeks ago. Quite similar. Now, Dave, you can tell us what you've got on the wrist.
So what have I got on the wrist? I am wearing my Titone Impetus ceramic, which I have been wearing actually for the last couple of days. I love the colour of this. It is a ceramic case, as you can see here, the blue areas. The black areas are stainless steel, along with the bezel in stainless steel as well, ceramic dial, and this kind of FKM rubber strap. It's a bit strange. It's kind of like all back to front. Normally you would have an all stainless steel or titanium case with a ceramic bezel, but in this case they've kind of backwards and fronted it. I love the colour palette on this watch. It was just, this attracted me. Not a brand that has really flagged up too highly in regards to my radar for watches. A brand that I've heard the name of. They're Swiss, they've been on the go for a long, long time, but their primary market is the Chinese market and has been for a good couple of decades. But this colourway popped up on Instagram and I just thought this is a great looking watch. In terms of movement, we have a Celita base movement in here with their own custom gold rotor on there as well. Little pops of ceramic on the end of the crown. I just think it's a great looking summery watch, and it's been a bit miserable here in Scotland over the last few days stroke week. Strong winds, lots of rain, all a bit overcast, so I needed something bright to lighten my mood slightly.
Here is our exclusive with a brand that I've known about since I was a child. A lot of folks think Rotary are from the UK because that's where they're based just now. But in actual fact, they launched well over 100 years ago, back in 1895 in Switzerland. And in the opposite way to Rolex, they decided to up sticks and come across the water to the UK. So now they're based in London, and we have got these vintage-inspired pieces to quickly have a look at here. These are reimagined from the 1960s, where there was a range called the Aqua Plunge chronographs. Now, we'll throw some pictures into the show notes and also on screen so you can see exactly what the original looked like and how close these ones are They're limited to 500 pieces in each different colourway, and these are coming in at the firm favourite for the collector community, 38mm. Everybody speaks about 38mm, everybody wants 38mm, and that's what you get here. And if we just quickly cover the bases of two of them are quite similar. They are a slightly different colourway when it comes to the bezel insert colour and also the dial, and this one here in the centre has got a leather strap, but otherwise is identical to these almost beads of rice-esque watches. So we'll move to these out the way. These watches on the metal bracelet that you see here, which there is not a lot of give to, these are £299 including VAT, and as I say, they're available in store as well as online. For that money, you wouldn't expect a lot, but you certainly get a ton. Let me just run through what you get here. So we've got a chronograph with a dive bezel. So you can actually rotate it around and it is dual function. Something you don't usually see, something you don't find at this kind of price point. And the subdials are very easy to read. They have got a nice metallic sunburst effect on them, and you've got the 12 and the 6 fully loomed out. Easy to see, easy to appreciate. And if we rotate the watch around, this is where things get interesting. Side on, things look fine. It feels good. Like I say, there is not a lot of give in that bracelet, and we've seen bracelets that cost £1,000 as an option that are terrible, absolutely terrible compared to this. So very impressed by that. And then you get round to the back, and a big bugbear of mine is when you get a watch through and everything is great until you get to the back and you pop the clasp open and it is some kind of pressed steel shit. This is incredible. This is a butterfly arrangement. It has got the rotary logo etched in to the metalwork. It's got one of the actual best, I'm not joking when I say this is one of the best clasps I have seen at any kind of price point. And I have played around with all kinds, all the way through to AP and beyond. And I have seen replacement clasps on eBay for certain watches because I have done some repair work for friends, and the replacement clasps can cost up to 70 quid a pop. So very impressed with that. And I know I'm talking about the back of the watch, but it's just something that caught me as being, you don't usually get it. So it's something to definitely highlight. On the front, very unique kind of styling there, as I mentioned with the rotary. It is totally symmetrical. You don't have a date complication in there. You've got a lot of high polished surfaces, but it's great. It's really well put together, and keep in mind that $299 price point. If I put that down and then I take one of its brothers over to the side, slight difference here. Because this has got a more grey arrangement to the dial versus the blue, you do have this red around the circumference on the bezel. Other than that, pretty much the same watch. And then the third one is pretty much the same again. Same as that last one there with the grey, but this time around you have actually got it on a leather strap, so it's a little bit cheaper. Instead of $299, this one comes in at $269. So there you go, a bit of an exclusive with a brand that is based in the UK, not originally from Britain. And as I say, it's the opposite of Rolex. They have come this way and we got rid of Rolex and passed them off to the Swiss. So there we go, fantastic watch. Check the show notes, and if you like what you're seeing here, click the YouTube description. That'll take you to our webpage and you can find out more about these lovely timepieces.
Rotary, a brand that, quite often pop off the radar, but I think in the last few years have begun to kind of really come back up. I always remember, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, I remember as a kid looking through the Argos catalogue, and I always used to go to the computer game section, the cameras and technology section, and the watches section.
In your day and age, the abacus section.
Yeah, the sundial section actually. We'd moved slightly on from there. But yes, I used to look through the catalogue and there was loads of rotary watches in there, many of which I used to think, I like that. Between Rotary, between Timex, between some of those brands, Casio as well, always a watch that took my fancy in there. Still to this day, providing watches for extremely good value. Typically, they do lots of watches in the £200, £300, £400 category as well. And as you mentioned, well finished, nice clasps, nice bracelets, not like some brands where you're not really getting anything of any real value or worth at that price point. But these guys seem to know what they're doing and how to do it well.
The Argos catalogue. I'm reminiscing. I'm remembering back to, it was Index, the catalogue shop, which was part of Littlewood. So that was a kind of Argos thing that was created, and it died off within about 10 years. But there was Argos catalogue, and then there was that. Maybe K's and Great Universal, but it was Argos is the one I remember, because you used to look through the catalogue and then you would highlight what you wanted for your Christmas and your birthday, and then you'd give it to your folks and they would look at it and laugh at you and you get practically nothing out of it. But it was always nice to dream And it used to be called the Book of Dreams, actually. There's loads of them online. They've all been scanned meticulously, and you can page through them and download the PDFs. But there might be some links in the show notes if I can find all that. But I remember Rotary in there, along with various other brands that are still around. You know, you did mention Casio, there was Seiko's, there was Limit, all kinds. And some of these brands are bigger than ever these days. And I remember Rotary being name checked in that famous episode of The Secret Life of Machines that I hark on about all the time because it's amazing. You should check it out. It's been HD upscaled. And we're talking about Rotary watches, and they included one of their original adverts where there's a lady talking about this Rotary watch and how it looks splendid on your wrist. It's good to see they're still around, they're still producing great value watches that look good, and that class was a winner. You don't even see that on some of the cheaper Citizens that we've had on the show. You don't see it on some of the other watches that we've had on the show that are a little bit more expensive than these. So click in the show notes, have a look at that. If you like them, go grab them. And the other benefit is, with the Rotary collection, you can pop into your local jewellers. There's a good chance they've got them. Your H. Samuels, your Goldsmiths, various other places. You can walk in, you can try them on. If you like them, you can buy them. So that is pretty much this show nailed. We have got a ton more to talk about. We've got all the stuff from Dubai that I was reminded of earlier that I need to get on top of. And we've got a whole host of interviews as well that we need to drop out. So be sure to subscribe, both on YouTube and in your podcast player of choice. And yeah, just go through the back catalogue if you've got the time. We've got Roger Smith, we've got Bremont, we've got 2 shows from IWC, we've got a trip to Moser, and that's only in the last month, plus a year roundup. Plus we had a drunk podcast to celebrate our 5th birthday. Tons there, and we're only at the end of January, so loads happening. Dave, anything else I have missed?
Don't think so. The only thing I've got to say is, if you're watching this on YouTube, definitely listen. If you're listening, definitely check out YouTube, because if you don't, you'll definitely have missed something.
Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you guys again soon.